The European Central Bank just passed one of the most insane laws that I have ever seen in my 9 years in this space. This is their official website, and as you can see, they are officially proposing holding limits of between 500 and 3,000 euros for the coming digital euro, which is coming a lot sooner than you might think. Now, before we get to the digital euro, just want you guys to notice this official update on their website. This was supposed to be telling us about the digital euro, but it had 41 mentions of the term holding limit. Look at this. It's insane. We've got a lot to cover on this exact topic, but this isn't just a European idea. We made a video a while ago looking at the Bank of England's proposal to ram through 20,000 holding limits on the digital pound. So why are we seeing similar laws rolled out in the UK and Europe? My guess is that this is going to spread all around the world, and this isn't just about control. This is about something much deeper that I think is beginning to kind of emerge right now as we see the Fed print money and inject it into the banking system. Because look at this. What is the justification for a UK savings limit and a Euro savings limit? Well, I think it's kind of coincidental that they're all talking about the same thing. Bank runs. We can see the digital euro could drain up to 700 billion euros of deposits in a bank run. Very interesting. Incredibly interesting, because this is the exact same thing that the Bank of England has been scared about for some time now. That's why they've written 45-page white papers talking about executing bail-ins. I even found this old white paper of the Bank of England that we actually haven't covered on this channel yet, but they've been writing about a resolution since 2017. Don't you love how they use those nice, friendly words? Oh, it's not a confiscation of depositors' money. It's a resolution weekend. It's insane. I know this video is going to be a little bit wild. It's one of the biggest videos I think I put together for you guys. Let's start it with Christine Lagarde's new video that came out this week when she had a little bit of a happy surprise and a good announcement for us all on the front of this digital euro.
Hello. I have good news for you on the digital euro front. Today, the Governing Council has decided to move ahead on the next and final phase of the preparatory work for the digital euro. The other good news is that on October 23rd, the European Council has asked us and all those involved to accelerate the process so that we can roll out the digital euro as early as possible. This is important because as much as banknotes will continue to circulate, we want cash to be in the form of digital euro as well, so that you can circulate banknotes and click cash with the digital euro. More work is going to be done in the next few months, and if we receive the approval by the European Parliament in the course of 26, we'll be able to pilot the digital euro as of 27. And if the pilot is conclusive and positive, it will be a formal rollout in the whole of Europe in 2029. This is a big project because the euro is our currency, your currency. It brings us together. It's a symbol of trust in our common destiny. So off we go with the digital euro in that next and final phase of the preparation.
Oh, well, if it was really a currency that brought everyone together, wouldn't it be easier to get everybody in Parliament and all of the politicians on the same board to agree with this CBDC? This is why the euro, the digital euro, keeps getting pushed back in its timeline. Like Chrissy said in this video, hopefully we get approval from the Parliament. So let's actually dive into this rabbit hole a little bit deeper, because again, I think a lot of these laws, whether it's digital IDs coming out of the UK or whether it's the savings caps ideas, they're not only not new, but they're Orwellian and they're not supported by anybody. That's why it's taking so long to get through the regulatory process. Now, while we're talking about the regulatory process, I've got a horrifying video I once again also haven't played for you guys on the channel from Christine Lagarde talking about this regulatory process in some pretty alarming words, I'm going to say myself.
We are victim of our own legacies and complications and this democratic process that we praise ourselves with, and rightly so, but
So she doesn't like the democratic process. That's what she's openly saying here.
Which is operating as too much of a drug at a time when speed is really of the essence. I'll share one frustration with you.
So the democratic process is a drag. That's what she's openly said. Because of course, who is going to vote for their own imprisonment? Who is going to vote on allowing these central bankers and these bureaucrats to execute a bail-in? Again, it's their very own words. They want to execute bail-ins. They want to limit the amount of money that you can hold. And I think, again, I've got a video that I played for you guys a while ago of Christine Lagarde praising China's CBDC. Let's not forget, in China, they've got a CBDC. They've got a digital ID. They've got it all rolled out. They've got the prison cage and the key rolled out. Their citizens, they're locked inside that digital prison. And I played that video for you guys a while ago. I'm not going to play it again because this is going to be a massive video. But Christine Lagarde openly praised China's CBDC. She said there's been one country where a CBDC has been rolled out. It's been a great success to all citizens, not just the elites, all citizens. It's her exact words. Now, what I think is interesting here is, let's not forget, we all know that, the digital yuan, it has an expiry date. I can't get into the nitty-gritty details of all of the other Orwellian ways that the Chinese CBDC is being used over there, but it's pretty open and it's pretty public, the fact that it has an expiration date and it has a lot of conditions attached to it for you to be able to use your own money. Now, why do I think this is interesting in particular with Europe? Well, let's not forget, Europe has been pushing for something called negative interest rates for some time. Now, what is a negative interest rate? Well, when you put money in a bank to save, you get paid an interest rate. The bank is holding your money. They're rewarding you for saving. That's not the case in Europe. They have wanted to go negative for some time. That means if you put money in the bank, they actually take some of your money out every month. This is a negative interest rate because they're trying to get the people to invest. Europe obviously has very old demographics. They have some of the older demographics in the world. Most people are just happy. They're retired in Europe and they're not spending a lot of money. This is, again, it's another Keynesian fallacy. All of these Keynesians and these bureaucrats at the head of the central banks, they believe we have to spend money to grow the economy. Or, again, that's the accepted narrative. I think there's a deeper, darker narrative where they don't want you to have any savings. But again, that's just tinfoil hat conspiracy theory territory. Let's stay away from that for now. Let's just look at the facts. This is the European Central Bank in 2020 writing articles about going negative. Oh, don't you think that's strange? And again, they were the only region around the world that briefly tried negative interest rates. I'm sure there's some really good charts in here that kind of highlights what we're talking about. Oh, yep, here we go. Europe ends its negative interest rate experiment. So think about that. That, again, a negative interest rate, it sounds nicer than it is. That means they steal your money if you have money in the bank. That is a negative interest rate. It's insane. It's wild. It is. And again, they've been trying to do this since 2020. I don't believe this is economic. I think this is far more cultural. It is far more social. It's far more about setting precedents. Again, I was saying this to the wife the other day. Why do you pay taxes if they can print money? Think about that. Taxation is purely a cultural phenomenon. It's about setting precedent. It's about forcing the idea in the citizens' heads that, yeah, you slave away and you work for 40 hours a week. But 20 of those hours, you're working for the government. I saw a really good quote recently. Somebody said something along the lines of, slavery never ended. It purely changed form, turned into time slavery. I'm not going to get into that topic just yet. Like I said, we've got a deep rabbit hole to cover today. We're talking about Europe. We're talking about the UK. But we do also, before we play the next video, I've got of Christine Lagarde that also raised some eyebrows when I watched it this morning. We've got to be aware that this is global. This isn't just, the head of the ECB, the European Central Bank. This is all over Europe, but it is also all over the world. So again, I'll remind you guys, this is Ursula von der Leyen tweeting this out in March 2025. She's talking about how we'll turn private savings into much needed investment. We've done a whole video looking at the Savings and Investment Union and all of the draconian double speak evident in that organization. Again, this isn't just a one-off. This isn't just a false step by Europe. They've been setting the precedent for some time that a digital euro is coming, and it's not going to be, let's just say it's not going to be freedom preserving. Now, again, let's look at these things globally. September 17, 6 weeks ago, Vietnam erased 86 million bank accounts because the citizens failed to upgrade their identity to a digital ID. Like we keep saying, you're never going to see digital ID without a CBDC. You're always going to see the two interlocked because the CBDC forces compliance. Again, like that great tweet lined out a while ago, the digital ID is like the prison cage. They're putting all the citizens in the cage. But the key is the CBDC. Very important. Again, we're going to have a look at how CBDCs are spreading globally because you can see it is very evident all around the world. You've got 49 pilot programs. These are the countries in green. Oh, look at that. My ex-country, Australia. A lot of green over there. And look at all the green in Europe. I'll just remind you guys, I've been saying this for a very long time. I refuse to live in a Western country for the next 10 or 20 years. It's purely economic. Again, this has been my mental framework for a long time. The Western countries that have the most debt will be forced to be the most draconian, the most Orwellian, the most authoritarian, because they're going to have to normalize the idea of their citizens paying enormous taxes. They're going to have to normalize the idea of enormous inflation, because this is how a government will pay back its debt. It will tax you more, it'll print more money, which will force your cost of living higher. Again, which countries have the most debt? Canada, Portugal, Italy, Spain, the entirety of Europe, France, Australia, New Zealand. Which countries lost their mind the most in 2020? Let's stay grounded. Let's have a look at the global spread of CBDCs before I get myself in trouble. We can see 3 countries have already launched them. We've got 20 in the development phase. We've got 36 in the research phase. Have a look at the different colors here in South America. Lots of countries here are completely inactive. They don't care. They don't want one. They're not investigating it. They're saying, not for me. Again, there's countries going the wrong way in South America. I don't want to paint an ill picture, but what I'm saying is there's a lot more places you can escape in South America. Look at all the green in Europe. They're in lockstep. They're all doing the same thing. They're all talking about, oh, this negative interest rate thing. This is a pretty cool economic phenomena, don't you think? No, it's all about stealing your money. It's what it's all about. This article could open up the next rabbit hole of today's video. Europe says goodbye to negative interest rates, or just au revoir. Of course, that's French for those who don't know. We're going to be talking about France in a moment because let's not forget what they just tried to ram through Parliament last week. They tried to advance their plans to roll out citizenship-based taxation. They want to be only the 3rd country in the entire world with citizenship-based taxation. That kind of tells you just how insane that law is. If only America and Eritrea tax their citizens globally. Again, for those who don't know, you could be from America. You could go live in Australia, the other side of the world, for 50 years. You never use any of America's services. You still got to pay taxes to the American government for life. That's citizenship-based taxation. So France wants to roll that out. And again, like I say, CBDCs, digital IDs, citizenship-based taxation, raising taxation, it's all hand in hand. It's all because, again, this is not conspiracy theory. It's purely because there's just too much debt in these Western countries. The only way they pay back the debt is steal your money. Slovakia is planning to develop a state-controlled QR payment system. We've obviously got the digital IDs in Thailand. We've obviously got the 20,000 digital pounds savings cap in the former great region of the UK. This is going global. Let's not forget, we've also covered this, not going to rehash it, but the tax authorities in the UK, the HMRC, can now take money directly from your bank if you haven't paid taxes. This is spreading globally. And the countries who try to escape this, they get attacked pretty quickly. Let's not forget what happened a day after the Czech Republic had a central banker announce that they were going to investigate a strategic Bitcoin reserve. What happened? Christine Lagarde came out and she said, oh, no. We are very confident that the Czech Republic will not be putting Bitcoin in their reserves. I had a good talk with their central bankers and I am very confident. Oh, boy. I'm going to save this for kind of part 2 of this live stream. We're going to split this into 2 because it is, it's in depth. We got a lot to talk about because this isn't, again, you can look at a lot of these headlines on an isolated basis and you think, oh, okay, Europe's just losing its mind. I think all of it, here we go. So ECB's Lagarde slaps down the Czech proposal for Bitcoin reserves. She literally, I don't know, I played the video for you guys. I'm not going to play it again. I've got about 6 videos to show you guys today. Simply don't have the time for all of them. But I'll remind you guys, the day after the Czech Republic made an announcement, they're investigating it. Chrissy came out in a video and said, no, I'm very confident they won't be. I spoke to them last night. Now, this is all, again, like I said, at a macro level, what's happening. What we're watching is an economic transition. We're watching the reserve currency of America be threatened. This is why we're seeing a lot of the crazy ideas come out of Europe, because they're threatened. They created the euro currency 20, 25 years ago because they wanted to be the next in line. Obviously, right now they're failing, and that's because of what we're going to be talking about in part 2 of this video. US stablecoin regulation increases pressure on Europe. All of this has been accelerating post the Genius Act. This is, again, I think a big reason for why a lot of this is happening. It's all happening really quickly. And I think a lot of people are very surprised at the speed of how all of this is happening. Again, this is just part 1. We've got 3 more things I want to cover for you guys in a moment. I think before we get there, I want to just, there's one video of Chrissy I wanted to play for you guys where she openly says the quiet parts out loud. Let's see if we can watch this. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let me know if you guys get the audio of this Christine Lagarde video I'm going to play for you guys.
It is a speculative. It's a speculative asset.
So context, she was asked about Bitcoin in this interview, and this is her, I think, perfect 30-second explanation of what Bitcoin is and how Bitcoin is going to be related to what's happening in the UK and the euro. Like we rolled out, like we kind of talked about recently. Don't you think it's strange that America is opposing CBDCs, but they just created a crypto task force with the UK? One of the countries advancing digital IDs and CBDCs, the authoritarian doubling, faster than any other country around the world. Why are they partnering up with America? Just a question we'll explore in a moment.
To take place that demonstrate it very clearly, and there has to be regulations, and this has to be applied and agreed upon. It's a matter that needs to be agreed at a global level. Because, if there is an escape, that escape will be used. So I think
if there is an escape, that escape will be used. Kind of insane when you think about it. Again, we're going to be talking about all sorts of different escapes in the next part of this video. Again, I think one of the best escapes is... Actually, I always prefer to show you guys and tell you guys, this is the best escape. It's Bitcoin. There is no second best. There is a reason why the head of the ECB is horrified of this thing, and she's pleading for global cooperation to crack down on Bitcoin. It's because it's an escape. It's the only thing they can't control. Again, they can only not control it if you hold your Bitcoin sovereignly and you acquire your Bitcoin sovereignly. Again, this is why I always encourage you guys just to look into mining Bitcoin. Again, I always encourage you guys to book a call with Blockware if you want to learn how you can buy the Bitcoin mining rigs yourself, or if you simply want to tap Blockware on the shoulder and say, hey guys, I want to use your hosted mining solution. How about you guys go and plug in the Bitcoin mining rigs, handle all of the repairs, get all the electricians on site. Blockware handles all of that for you guys. So I highly encourage you guys, look into that if you are interested in getting your hands on some Bitcoin in a non-KYC, privacy preserving way. Again, check out Blockware at the link down below. And again, once you've got your hands on some Bitcoin, what is the next rule on Bitcoin? Rule number 2, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Why would you hold Bitcoin in a BlackRock IBIT ETF that, mind you, just got rolled out in the UK last week? Coinky dink. I think that's interesting. Maybe it's setting up a trap. That's why I always tell you guys, I'm gonna talk about the trap more in a moment, but unless you got Bitcoin in one of these, your own hardware wallet, you do not own the Bitcoin. Okay, it's as simple as that. Highly recommend you guys just go and get your hands on a hardware wallet. There are so many options for you guys to check out. Trezor just released the Trezor Safe 7, which is the very first quantum-ready hardware wallet. As you can see, it's super slick. I'm super lucky. I think there's less than 200 people in the world with their hands on one of these. So if you do want to get one of the Model 7s before the rest of the world, as you can see, they're available on the 23rd of November. So you can pre-order one of those puppies now. Again, have a look at the slick orange one. That's the Bitcoin-only version of the Trezor Safe they've got. Amazing hardware wallet. I absolutely love it. And again, if you do want to check out other options, Ledger also has 5 great signers for you guys to check out. Again, I love how we calling them signers these days. Bitcoin hardware wallets, they're for signing transactions. As you can see, you get the Ledger Nano Generation 5. That's the brand new hardware wallet Ledger released recently. Super lightweight, 2.8-inch screen. Highly recommend you guys check out what Ledger has got. They've got the Flex and the Stacks. I'm going to show you the Ledger Nano 5th generation when I get back to my home pretty soon. I'm going to be there very soon. I'm not going to give away exactly when I'm leaving because then Chrissy's going to know where I'm going, and we do not want to tell the bureaucrats where we are going. But again, now we're going to pivot into the second part of today's video, the global look at why this is happening. Because again, it can be so easy to get confused and lost and just think, okay, Europe's losing its mind. But again, when you start looking at things with a bigger picture framework, it all starts to make sense. Because the US has held the global reserve currency for the past 100 years. And Europe wants to be next. You can see Portugal, Spain, the Netherlands, they all held the global reserve currency in the 1400s, 15s, 16s, 1700s. Britain, although we might have had Brexit recently, they're essentially part of Europe. Wealth was in Europe between the 1400s and the 1800s. It was the economic powerhouse of the world. America wasn't supposed to happen. America breaking apart and saying, essentially, screw you guys. We're not paying you 2% tax on tea. We're going to America. And we're going to take all of the entrepreneurs with us who want to build and innovate and not put up with bureaucratic, authoritarian taxes. This is why wealth moved to America in the 1800s and the 1900s. This is why the automobile was created in America. This is why the microprocessor, the massive internet revolution that began in 1962, began in America. It's because wealth and entrepreneurs went to America, and Europe wants it back. Europe wants the wealth of the world back, which is why they freaked out recently over this US Genius Act. So this is what everybody's been talking about recently. The Genius Act, as I think this article breaks down, sparks fears of US dollar global digital dollarization. I don't think we're going to see dollar weakening. I kind of disagree with that. I actually think the Genius Act is going to help strengthen the dollar. I think it's as simple as that. And we can see, I think this article as well kind of explains a lot of the madness. US stablecoin law jolts Europe into rethinking digital euro strategy. And a lot of people, Europe and the UK, they're all abundantly clear that the Genius Act spells trouble for their attack on American economic sovereignty. We can see the European Central Bank is now accelerating the CBDC plans. Why is that? Because of the Genius Act. They're all petrified of it. Let's quickly, as you can see, CBDCs are often seen as potential rivals to stablecoins, which are crypto tokens that attempt to track the price of fiat currencies. Following Trump's inauguration, the US has embraced stablecoins with the passing of the Genius Stablecoin Act. This is why Europe is freaking out. And they're trying everything. Look at the narrative doublespeak. A digital euro would preserve Europeans' freedom of choice and privacy and strengthen our sovereignty and resilience. Do you really believe that? I don't know about you guys, but I'm smelling something and it ain't flowers. I smell BS. I ain't trusting them with my money. Now, let's not forget, wow, one of the most important articles I completely forgot to share with you guys. Wow, hang on a minute. Let me backtrack just a little bit before we get into continuing talking about the bigger picture here. I completely forgot to show you this article. Obviously, we've covered this, but for anyone new on the channel, we've made many videos on the UK and Europe. And that is because I'm trying to find the most important article for you guys. Oh, don't tell me they've hidden it. Okay, if I can't find it, I'm just going to have to summarize it. There was an article released on the European Central Bank's very own website a couple of months ago now. This is the one. Crossing 2 hurdles in one leap. How an EU savings product could boost returns in capital markets. Here it is. This is the headline. This is the very top of the ECB article. Again, official website. There is now an urgent need to channel retail savings into European capital markets in order to develop those markets and finance EU priorities. Direct quote from the European Central Bank. What is EU priorities, you ask? This gets into the next part of today's video. Again, as promised, this is going to be a long one. But this talks a little bit more about the fracturing between America and Europe. Again, all of this is going to make sense if we had that big picture framework. Because recently, America just kind of abandoned Europe for the first time in 80 years. And we can see after 80 years of transatlantic ties, Europe is being forced to forge a new alliance. And that's because America stepped away. America said, well, I need to be careful what I say. But long story short, America doesn't want to be financing wars. It's as simple as that. But have a look at how this article in particular framed this. Trump and Vance's wild, erratic, and at times insulting comments about European governments had left politicians on this side of the Atlantic facing 2 dawning realities. America essentially said, look, we're out of war. We don't believe in it. And this is how they get framed. Erratic and insulting. I want to talk a little bit more. Again, this is all tied into the bigger picture stuff. I want to play the rest of this clip from Christine Lagarde before we move on, though.
Started back 6 years ago, I was adamant to push for the digital euro and to make sure that we would be digitally anchored with central bank money. Given the time that it takes, and this is currently pending before the European Parliament, given the time that it takes, I will be gone. In other words, my mandate will have expired when the digital euro is eventually launched for good. This is too long. It takes time. When you want to launch something, it has to be right. And the same applies for securitization, for capital market union, for banking union, and what have you. But we just have to accelerate. So my plea is for an understanding of the speed at which reforms have to take place and change has to occur. Because we don't want to be left in the dust. I don't.
All of this language, it's all accelerate, urgent need. And it's pretty telling. If you guys, I got a lot of friends still living in Europe, still living in Australia. They're like, oh, you know, it doesn't feel too bad here. Yeah, 2020 was a fright, but things have kind of normalized. They've gone back to normal. I'd be skeptical. I'd be incredibly skeptical. Their language surrounding CBDCs has me incredibly concerned. I think they're coming much quicker than most people think. Again, another reason for that is, again, now let's think, we've kind of set the stage for what are their plans. But when are we going to see this? Obviously, what is one of my favorite quotes? You never let a good crisis go to waste. Now, let's not forget, the last time we saw the repo market beginning to spasm like it is right now today was in September 2019. Think about that. Right now, we're seeing the Fed inject liquidity into the repo market. This is a brand new tweet. This was literally today, November 2. Fed pumps $29 billion into US banking system through overnight repos. This is the biggest spike since 2020. Well, sorry, let me reframe that. Since September 2019. What else happened in 2019? Well, the yield curve inverted in August of 2019. And the yield curve has predicted every recession for the past 100 years. Again, until recently. The yield curve's actually broken in 2022, but that's a part of this bigger de-dollarization, this much bigger abandonment of government bonds. Again, we're in a different era now, post-2020. But in 2019, the yield curve said, hey, we're due for a recession in the next 6 to 12 months. So somewhere between January 2020 and June 2020, you have that data point. You have interest rates spiking in the repo markets in 2019. You have the Fed, for the first time in 10 years, injecting hundreds of billions of dollars into the repo market in September 2019. Economic crisis is coming. How are we going to justify this enormous amount of money that needs to be printed? Never let a good crisis go to waste. I'll let you guys fill in the rest. But hey, here we go. We're now beginning to see liquidity getting jammed back into the repo markets. Pretty interesting. And this is all happening at the same time as this article lines out. 80 years after World War II, the US is turning its back on Europe. Again, these moves, what we've seen now is big picture moves that have not happened in a long time. We're seeing a lot of strange things happen. We saw this. I'm going to really tiptoe my way through this part of the video. So what I found interesting was America, for the first time in 80 years, earlier this year, said, okay, we're not going to support the transatlantic alliance. America's trying to withdraw itself from violence around the world. And then, look at this. J.D. Vance breaks taboo by meeting with leader of Germany's far-right party. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. Let me think about how I can advance in this part of the video. All I'm going to say is things have been really volatile in Germany recently. So Euronews posted this. Social media is rife with conspiracy theories after 16 candidates die ahead of German local elections. So Germany had local elections recently, and the AfD party was very popular. They were getting a lot of votes, and all of a sudden, a lot of tragic things happen. Let's just say that. So again, think about this bigger picture. Europe is being left on their own. Many European countries are pushing back. The Czech Republic is saying enough's enough. We want to hold Bitcoin in our strategic reserves. We've seen this bifurcation. Poland, a couple of other countries are saying, yeah, we're not on board with this global agenda. Because again, it's not just digital IDs and CBDCs, it's the whole C-sweep of things. I'm going to be careful with what I talk about with the C-sweep of things. But again, it's all coming out in lockstep. Again, Operation Lockstep. That told us what was coming 15 years ago. For those who know, you know. Again, I've talked about problems a lot in this live stream. Let's talk about more solutions. Again, a common problem that I get told about with hardware wallets is, okay, I've got my Bitcoin in a hardware wallet. What if someone breaks into my home with a gun, puts a gun in my head, forces me to give me their Bitcoin? It's a real problem. It's a real threat. Physical attacks on Bitcoiners increased by 100% this year, 2025. As the price goes up, known Bitcoiners are going to have an even bigger target on their back. Again, look at this haircut. I've got a massive target on my head walking around South America, which is why I use multi-signature Bitcoin wallets or time-locked Bitcoin wallets. That means I literally determine with my wallets how long I want to lock it for. You can lock it for an hour if you just want to experiment and play around with it. You can lock it for a day, a week, a month, a year, or a decade. Again, this is why I'm a massive fan of what Bitvault is doing and why they're a partner of the channel. They create a product that is much in need. They create these vaults for you guys to easily set up a time-locked Bitcoin vault. Again, I've used them. They're a great product. Highly recommend you check them out. You can get yearly access to their application for 119 big ones. Again, once you've got the app, you can set up a time-locked Bitcoin wallet in like 10 minutes. Again, up to you guys. You can pay an expert $1,000 to walk you through the process, or you can buy access to an app that lets you do it yourself for 119 big ones. I think it's a great option. Salud, mi amor. My wife's in there sneezing. Check out Bitvault. They're linked down below. They're a great product. They're a great and necessary tool in your Bitcoin toolkit to fight back against what's coming. Because all of this is coming. Again, while we're here talking about, we're getting a little bit conspiratorial, let's have a look at the great Bitcoin price suppression and where we are right now. Because a lot of people have messaged me, Luke, is the bull run over? All of these trading gurus are telling me the bull run is over. We're at $110,000 per coin. Gold's just gone nuts. Look, something that I will say about the price, again, I told you guys 100 times on this channel, this YouTube channel is not about predicting prices. This is not about trading courses, none of this. We do deep dives. If you enjoy the deep dives, again, subscribe so you get notified when we release the next one. This is not about trading, but I will say something that I noticed was a little bit interesting. We've spent 200 days above $100,000 per coin. Just going to say it's pretty rare for an asset to top spending that much time above 100K. I think that's interesting on a price front. Again, my bias, I think we're going to rip. I think we're going to go much higher. Again, I think a lot of people are going to make a lot of mistakes this bull run. They're going to sell Bitcoin too early. I always encourage you guys, please never sell your Bitcoin. Look into how you can borrow against your Bitcoin responsibly. I think the only place to do it responsibly is with Firefish, and that's because they're openly transparent with where the yield comes from on the platform. They have a borrowing section. They have a lending section. They are simply a marketplace that connects the two people. So if you want to borrow against your Bitcoin, they will connect you with somebody who wants to get yield on their dollars, the fiat maxis. That's why I love Firefish. I think they're one of the only safe places to borrow against your Bitcoin. As you can see, they've got a borrowing tab. You can get an instant loan in literally 30 minutes, and the stable coins or the dollars will be put into your bank account or your wallet, depending on where you live, in hours. Again, here's the invest section. It's openly transparent. The fiat maxis over here are chasing 11% yields. I love Firefish. They're going to give you guys 30% off if you use a promo code Luke. That's super easy to remember. Luke. Check that out. Because again, like we say, Bitcoin is great, but you need to know how to use it to avoid the legalized theft, as Michael says in the chat. It's exactly what taxation is. It's a social construct. It's legalized theft. Down Under Blue sums it up. If you're thinking about holding Bitcoin, again, this thing's money. You've got to hold it for the long term. Because again, I always say in 5 years' time, I think we're going to be in a very different world. In 5 years' times, there's going to be, there's going to be CBDCs everywhere. And in 5 years, there's going to be people with Bitcoin, and there's going to be people without Bitcoin. They're going to be trapped in the CBDC digital ID ecosystem. People with Bitcoin, we'll be fine. We'll be happy. We'll own stuff and we'll be happy. People in the CBDC prison, everything they own, they'll rent. I mean, it's wild that our bureaucrats are literally saying these things out loud. Robert's moving out of the US. DM me on Twitter, my friend. I'd love to help. I'll send you a list of my hotspots on where to go. Damn, you guys are lively in the chat today. Hello, Denmark. I'm in South America. Opti's girlfriend. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Let me know whether you think you're going to have a CBDC in your country rolled out in the not too distant future. Let's not forget, I'm still shocked by this chart. It's very clear. It's very transparent. The world is pushing for CBDCs. My ex-country, Australia, we've got a pilot program. And look at that. We're using Ethereum. Boy, freedom preserving Ethereum. Digital sound money. What do they call themselves? Ultrasound money? Oh, we're better than Bitcoin. We're ultrasound money. We're deflationary. Now they're helping the bureaucrats imprison you with CBDCs. Look at this. Even Brazil's using Ethereum technology. Like we say on this channel, guys, it's very clear. There's Bitcoin, and then there's everything else. What does Nico say? Bitcoin is slavery. It's that simple. Ethereum, slavery. Solana, slavery. They're all working with the big banks and the CBDC and the digital ID guys to imprison you. Very different world. Bitcoin is not crypto. With all that said, guys, I've been rambling for 42 minutes. I'm going to end this one here. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. If you want to learn a little bit more about this Orwellian push that's been going on for months now, I'm going to put links to a couple more videos up on screen where I explain that deep dive in a little bit more detail. With all that said, if you enjoyed this one, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And I'll see you all in the next one.